Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody.
What's up?
Welcome to the 173rd Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with Andrew Norman and Tom S. That's right. And today's topic is where freedom lies for me. Would you share what this means to you, Andrew, and why you're happy to discuss this here today?
I would love to. Welcome back, Tom. You're our
Hey.
fave. You're our guy, man. We talk about you all the time. Even when you're not set on the schedule, we talk about you. So good to have you,
You're a legend
man.
in our own minds.
You're a legend in our own mind. You changed a lot of people's lives, man. You don't even know it. Maybe you do, but we're here to tell you and remind you, man. Thank you for being here and thank you for your time. It's really, really special. I've been pumped up for this. Freedom, guys. Freedom, fellas, arrives at my doorstep every single morning in the form of choices. I say that a lot in our meetings. You know, that choice and I'll owe it to JJ on this one. That choice, man. As long as I don't use today, right? I woke up today clean. I can continue to keep my choice. Simple as that. I did not have a choice in active addiction, man. I was completely wrapped up. My disease was doing all of the decision making for me, and so the power of choice, the power to have, the freedom, freedom, man, freedom recovery rising podcast, right? Like the freedom, where it lies for me, and we'll get into it as we open this thing up, but like freedom, as simple as this, man, is I have a choice and purpose today. It's that self-determination for me, that where I get to make my own choice rather than being subject to like somebody controlling my actions or or the substances controlling my actions or controlling my life, which they did for decades, plural, and so having that self-determination, choice of purpose, freedom means ultimately taking my own decisions, being responsible for my actions, being able to process them in a healthy way now and not put drugs on an emotion, and feel my feelings today, Tom, and I can actually feel my feelings, process them, coming here and share them with you guys, my guys, and lighten that load a little bit for me. So it's very, very important to me. Freedom is really everything, because I wasn't free, man. I was trapped in my own hell, and when I first came in here, I was a dead body walking, man. And y'all showed me how to live, and y'all showed me how to act. And I'm free today, man. I'm free to do and act how I want to act, and hang out with who I want to hang out with, right? I'm free to do whatever the hell I want to, and so I had that power of choice today, man. And it was really, really simple when this came up in terms of my opening, man. I have a choice today. I have a choice to be on this podcast with you guys today, man. I was a slave in my disease. So we'll just open that up, man. And we'll pass it over to you, Tom. What does that mean to you, bro? I love you.
Well, yeah, this is a very layered term, freedom. It can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. And it's meant different things to me at different times in my life. I'm sure throughout this podcast we'll touch on all or most of those, but we'll start from the beginning. The original, when I first was trying to get sober, I thought that recovery was going to be the prison, right? Like, now I can't do fill in the blank, right? I can't be around these people. I can't go to those places. I can't go to the bar. I can't, I'm going to be limited now. I'm limiting myself. I go on vacation. I can't drink, whatever. All the things that we tell ourselves are going to be a big deal when we consider getting sober. When in reality, it's the opposite, right? Like, once And those are thoughts of somebody that's, you know, in the addiction, right? When our head clears a bit and we can see reality for what it is, we realize how trapped we have been by drugs and alcohol. From, you know, I'll give an example. I got to a point in my drinking and drug use where I couldn't drive a car um, because I need to have a certain amount of things in my body to even walk out my front door. You know, I was terrified or anxious or shaking or just unfit to be in public. I couldn't go to the grocery store without having 5 beers, you know. So in order to drive a car, I couldn't do it sober, certainly because I was shaking and would have a panic attack and couldn't. And, you know, I'm not trying to drive a car drinking 10 beers to like settle down. So I had maybe like a 1 or 2 hour window in the day where I was drunk enough that I could get out of my bed and sober enough to not, you know, cause a major accident. So that was incredibly limiting. I also had certain, you know, I knew that I had about 4 or 5 hours in the day where I could potentially follow through on a commitment that I made, right? It was, again, after I'd had enough, whatever it was, enough booze, enough Xanax, enough cocaine, whatever it, like if I was trying to hit a certain point where I was functional, it was always a dance, right? A little bit of this, a little bit of that, not too much of this, not too much of that. And I knew at a certain point during the day that I would surpass that threshold and then be completely ineffective at anything I wanted to do. So if you wanted me to come by your house at 5 p.m., you know, there was maybe a 50% chance I was going to be able to do that, right? 5 p.m. was fairly doable. 8 p.m., no fucking way. Not making it. 8 a.m., no way. You know, it's like this, the walls close in on you without you even realizing it, you know, and it's, you know, the biggest example of lack of freedom that I could think of, right? I just couldn't physically do shit that I really wanted to do, right? Like if I told you I was going to do something that I wanted to do, I really wanted to be there, but I wasn't able to make it. So, um, you know, that was the first thing in recovery that was given to me in terms of freedom. You know, the first like tangible thing I could recognize in terms of getting some level of freedom back. It dawned on me like if I was going to do so, I could do something in the morning. You know, I could go to something in the morning and commit to it and know I was going to be there. And that was this sense of like, holy shit, I can actually do things, you know. The first vacation I went on sober, I realized, wow, I know that I'm going to get on this plane coming home. You know, I know that I know that I'm not going to, you know, be hung up in some hotel, unable to move, unable to function. I'm going to be on the plane home and I'm going to be able to enjoy this trip. It was this like eye-opening thing that happened. You know, other forms of freedom certainly materialized as the time ticked by, and I realized exactly what recovery gave to me and how, you know, I was given this completely new lease on life and changed everything. But that was the first example of like, wow, I can do shit. This is crazy, you know. And for the last months or years or whatever time before, I was completely trapped by this thing and unable to do it. So that was my first example of what freedom meant to me.
I love that.
Boom, boom.
Oh, it's great to have you here, Tom, and great to see you again, Andrew. Love you guys, and I love doing this with you guys. Every single time, I just leave a little bit more spiritually buoyant for the rest of the day. And, and that's some of the freedom to me today is that just through a conversation, I feel a natural high, you know, like just I feel a natural sense of liberation from myself. It gets me out of myself to come and do these conversations, and near the end of my addiction, right? I was in prison of acquisition and consumption. Like there was no freedom there. I was chained to my substance by a very short distance, and it was always that more, and it had to be connected to me, and there had to be a source, or I just simply wasn't doing it. You talked about your freedom of movement there, Tom. Mine was like, oh, well, if that would require me to stop, I just would say no to that event, and the same in that sense. And then, it was tremendously like anxious and depressing near the end of it. And then what I found through the step work was the level of delusions. And so it's like freedom now to actually have a chance at perceiving things as they are happening in a clear format that then I have an actual chance to react or act in a better way towards, because I didn't before. If I was skewing it so that I was the victim and it was like my ready-made resentment machine to go use, then that's what it was, and you didn't have a chance of an actual authentic or genuine loving response if that was my pattern that I was already using. And then, I'm just going to touch on this now, but I've really felt like discipline and commitment are some of the greatest keys to freedom for me inside the program now for my own personal growth. And that coupled with love and surrender, I mean, freedom is as much as we want to go towards it in that sense. I'm going to leave that there because I think we're going to have some great questions. And Andrew, you want to ask Tommy one?
Yes. So I'll start off with this. So how did my old idea of freedom differ from my new idea of freedom now that you're in recovery?
Hmm. Well, yeah, like I said, I thought I was free. I thought I was free to do whatever I wanted, you know. Um, I want to go to the bar at 10 a.m. I can go to the bar at 10 a.m. I want to, leave this relationship and find a different one on a whim. I can I could do that. Something feels uncomfortable to me, I can walk away from it, no problem. That's what I thought freedom was. Um, and I realized, and the alternative is I thought that having to um do those things, having to stick with uncomfortable feelings, have to, um, commit to relationships that were hard. I thought that was an example of, not being free. That was what I didn't want to do, right? And you know, the first thing, giving up drugs and alcohol, I thought, okay, well, that's an assault on my freedom right there, right? Like I don't want to do that. That's scary and that's going to change my lifestyle and that's going to be something that I don't want. And then, getting sober and realizing what the 12 steps were about and what Alcoholics Anonymous was about, I thought that was just the least appealing thing I could think of, right? Oh, I got to practice these fucking principles in all of my affairs. You mean I got to like be responsible and if I say I'm going to do something, I have to do it, or I have to be there, or I have to be accountable to this sponsor guy. Like all these things were like, whoa, this is definitely not fucking freedom. Um, and I got to be honest, forget it. You know, I didn't, I didn't, I didn't act upon those thoughts, right? I stayed there and it slowly morphed into, this idea of, wow, if I do these things and if I live this way, I can do anything, right? And I can be anywhere. And I can not only be anywhere, but be anywhere without shame. And I can act the way that I have always felt I should be acting, right? I can behave in, you know, I can do esteemable acts, right? And therefore gain this level of self-esteem that's necessary for me to be around anybody without feeling guilt or shame or, feeling less than. It's the freedom that Alcoholics Anonymous is, or Narcotics Anonymous, or any recovery program, that can offer, is just this level of humility, um, where I don't have to compare myself to other people. I don't have to think that this person's better than me or this person's worse than me. And I don't, we're not on the same footing here. Like, I can have a conversation with some C-level executive. And this is the cool thing about my first AA experience, really. My first home group was a downtown Chicago early morning meeting full of dudes in suits that were, making $1 million a year, and homeless guys together. And they were buddies. They'd give each other a fucking hug in the morning. And this one guy would go, hop in his Lexus and drive to his whatever big job. And the other guy would go push his fucking shopping cart down the street. And these dudes were homies. And I was like, wow, man, like this is what it's about. This is um that these guys are living the same way, inside. They're carrying themselves in the same fashion. And that blew my mind. It's not about the shit that we have or the image that we portray or the things that we're trying to make other people believe that we are. It's who we are inside. And if that can be pure, right, as close as we can get to it, if we can strive to make that, you know, what recovery programs tell us it should be looking like, um, then we can walk around with that, feeling of lightness and serenity and ease that God, I know I craved my whole life, right? I know that I was, um, just completely trapped by my own bullshit. Um, there's a piece in the AA literature they call it the bondage of self, right? And I believe that that's like our human nature coupled with society bullshit, coupled with, our addiction, the devil on our shoulder, um, that spins this lie and that feels very true and very real as to how we need to be and how we need to behave and how we need to make sure other people think this, that, or don't think this of us. And it's frankly fucking exhausting, and it's frankly bullshit. And when you can clear your mind enough and like buy into the message that's preached in recovery, um, it's like this light bulb goes off. It's like, whoa, like everything that I've been doing is not only bullshit, but it's harmful, right? It's harming other people, but more importantly, it's harming me. And I am living in this fake sense of what's important, and realizing that, and not only realizing that, but then like, oh, okay, like now I get it. And not only do I get it, but this pathway has been paved for me on how to continue to do that and how to grow even more from, that light bulb moment. Um, Now it's granted, the bondage of self, as I said, is powerful fucking shit, right? And by the way, it's like I said, I don't know exactly what it's made up of, but it's us as humans. It's how we've been raised a bit and what we're bombarded with on a daily basis via the fucking internet, whatever else. And I believe some like version of evil, right? Like the devil, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like there's some ethereal force out there too that's like there's good and bad in this world, right? And we're fighting bad as humans. Whatever you want to paint that as, I do believe that there's like some level of nefarious energy in the world that that we've got to work against, right? And we have tools to work against it. And all major religions and whatever feel that way. I don't particularly, like we've talked about uh spirituality a bit, and I don't necessarily buy into any one in particular, but I do believe that there's like things that we got to work against as human beings and to live the life that we want to live. So it's this like conglomerate of bullshit that has affected us and turned us into these people that we are, that we eventually need to break free of, and we've got this fucking tool, and once we buy into that tool of spirituality, recovery, those things, um the ability to expand upon that is incredible, but it's also not a linear path. It's not easy all the time. We fail, we fall, we need to get back up, we need to keep going. And when we are in that, I mean, there's a lot of terms that people use in recovery rooms, on the beam, um, when I like to use the term when we're dialed in. When I'm dialed in to the flow, the energy, the universe, whatever, when I'm in tune with what's going on out there, it's like I can fucking see the future, man. It's like you can levitate. You're like, whoa, this is it. And all I had to do was get out of my own fucking way, was to be relieved of the bondage of self. And then I'm poof, I'm like rocketed into the fourth dimension, as they say in some in AA. But yeah, man, that's a long, wordy, roundabout way to tell you guys how I feel about freedom and the difference that it's making.
That's a beautiful way to get us kickstarted, man. And I call it tapped in. I'm tapped in, man.
Tapped in.
So I'm gonna ask beautiful answer, man. I'm gonna ask you, Milan. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
How did your old idea of freedom differ from your new one now that you're clean and in recovery?
Okay, so I mean, it was 100% different. I really liked how Tom was just talking about the self-obsession, and I would call it, for me, it was like self-seeking. When they talk about self-seeking in the literature, there it was, except it was like I wanted hassle-free self-seeking. That was freedom. It was like, don't fucking get in my way. Let me get whatever sensation I want, as much as I want, without anybody giving me any moral backlash. Like whether it like I could go down the list, but you guys have all gone down the list too. We don't need to go down that list. But it was basically like, get out of my way, trouble's in town, see you in 5 days. And that was freedom back then, like, and freedom still had a cost then, like whether it was the relationship repercussions, whether it was my physical repercussions. Like, my health was really bad by the time I found recovery. Like, there was just a bunch of sinus issues. I mean, I had smoked for 51 and a half years at that point, and and I was really starting to feel the effects of it. And the very first taste of freedom was my surrender of my addiction, and that headspace that I gained. Like, I would call that like my sacred freedom. Like, that's like something that I can even find maybe some days I'm taking for granted. Like, I feel like it's become although it's the most important thing in my recovery, it is not the most noted thing in my days anymore, because I don't struggle with it as much. Like, I don't wake up and be like, holy fuck, I need drugs or alcohol. I had my fourth using dream in my entire recovery 2 nights ago. And
Uh-huh.
I woke up from that. And it didn't ruin my day. It didn't barely phase my day at all. And I was just like, oh
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
thank God I wasn't there. But the first couple that happened, I think one happened at about 6 months and about 9 months
Yeah,
in.
you were messed up. You were messed up
I
after
was I
those.
was like I was like traumatized for a period after, and now like that's just, it was like, oh yeah, yeah, I know that I'm not using, and so I think that one is one, like the freedom of the surrender from my addiction. That one is something that I have to remind myself of its value, because it's just like some moments I'm not, the struggle is so removed. That surrender is so complete that it's just like, oh yeah, like, and that's the beauty of seeing a newcomer at a meeting. And it's like, I've seen some people recently coming in and shaking it hard, and I'm just like, holy shit, am I ever lucky right now, and but one of the things that I'm going to touch on, and I got a question that kind of deals with this, so I won't go too deep into it, but you know a big part of my freedom these days is a byproduct of discipline and commitment. And it's just like that freedom comes from being able to grow and having the discipline, the commitment, the health, and everything pointed in a direction. It's just like, I feel unstoppable in certain ways. And quite frankly, like probably in the best shape I've been in my whole life right now. And I love it. And that freedom to keep taking care of myself, and sort of the peace and the joy and the growth and the results of that are just, they're with me all day long. Every step I take and how I feel taking that step is a freedom that, before was like I was so filtered. I was so filtered by substance, be it the cigarettes, be it shittier food, be it no sleep for fucking 27 and a half years. And, or be it, just the drugs and having to be on the drugs. Like there's just a clarity, a presence, and a power that exists in my movement now that lets me feel free. I'm going to
Mm.
leave that one there because I don't want to spoil this one question that I got. But I love you guys a lot.
Love you more. Love you more, man. All right, so I'm gonna answer this. Where does my freedom? Excuse me. That's not the question. How does my old idea of freedom differ from my new one now that I'm in recovery and I'm clean? Well, I thought this was a good jumping off question to get us all marinated here on this word. But y'all hit it on the head. A lot of me too's there. Back in my disease, as long as people were doing what I asked of them, I thought that was freedom. It was all about control, for me, because the end game was always the same, man. It was always getting my drugs. I always had to get my substances or get money for my substances or get money for more so I don't run out tomorrow. It was always, I never had any peace, man. I never had any peace. Like even when I would have a spot in my life where I could be peaceful, like the drugs hit right in. Even if I had drugs, I remember I would be stressing out about that next time getting, even if I had like enough for a week, I'm still worrying about that eighth day out. And I was just I was never at peace. I never had a serene moment in my active addiction. And I remember, countless times where I'd be doing my drugs and I still wouldn't be serene, right? I'd be hied up and I still would be thinking about, you've touched on this, Milan, where you do a hit and you're thinking about the next one just to do another because you don't want to be robbing yourself of the one you're doing. It's like a wild spit, like
The more
what
on
the
top of more, man.
more on top of more on top of more stacked. It's like more stacked, right? It's wild. And we don't even, I'll keep it on me. I didn't even realize what I was doing to myself at that point, and looking back at it, this is a disease, guys. We talk about it all the time. It's a disease. I have a constant dis-ease going on here. And I don't know what peace is. I'm addicted to chaos. You know, me personally, I'm addicted to chaos. I want to throw this at you real quick, Tom. My new acronym for fear: future events already ruined. You like that?
Mm,
You
I
like that
do
one?
like that.
It's a good one. And then sin,
Oh.
self-inflicted nonsense. When you're dabbling in sin or doing sinful things, you're self-inflicted nonsense. So I wanted to hit that at you before I forget.
I
That's a
like
good one.
that fear one, yeah, for sure.
So back then, that's we can beat a dead horse all day. It was always about that transaction when I was in active in my disease, and now it's completely changed around, man. You know, I've learned that freedom isn't about doing whatever I want to do at any time, right? It's about um, having the ability to choose differently when I need to, that ability to pause, stop, pause, make a decision based on principles today instead of impulses. That, impulses were, oh, oh, did you just start us?
I didn't start it. I started it way before. I wasn't even
Oh,
touching my
oh, that
keyboard at
was
that
wild.
moment.
Hmm.
I really hope it didn't skip a whole chunk. Like, I really wasn't
You want
even
to pause
touching
it
my
real quick and
computer.
check? You want to pause and check,
I
or do
can't
you want
check.
to?
It
Okay, cool.
takes it sends me the processing like a half hour later.
Okay.
Anyway, we
Well,
just
so
continue
yeah,
because it's
yeah, yeah,
saying
yeah,
recording, and it was
yeah,
before.
yeah.
So
Cool,
maybe
cool.
it
So
hiccuped or something.
I don't know. Well, I love you guys still. Yeah, so it means not escaping my responsibilities today. I don't run from my responsibilities. I make responsible responsibilities, and then I show up when I say I'm going to show up. That's another thing I have that I didn't have before. Man, I was the maybe man, but I was the maybe man that did not show up. Like they would call me the maybe man just on a sheer whim that I might show up, but I never did. And so when I would run away from things and I wouldn't really, I wouldn't have to, I would just run and do drugs and burn the shit down, man. Um, so now today it has my recovery has to involve a lot more than just like not using drugs, man. I got to go to meetings. I got to be in podcasts. I gotta be of service. I got to be a sponsor to young men. I got a couple of sponsees that I'm helping out. One that's really, really struggling right now, man. Bro, he's going through it. Um, Going through it. Some shit that I've never, like, just some wild stuff, and it's beautiful because he thinks he's bothering me. He calls me and he thinks he's bothering me, and I try to break it down to him. Like, I beg those guys to call me. You know, I know you do too, Milan. I know you feel the same way about your sponsees. Like when they call me, I don't care what it's about. Like it just really, 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 really brings home why I'm doing this. Because it's all about service. It's all about, how serviceable can I be to somebody today? Because ultimately that gets me out of my head. And you hit it on it in the opener, Tom. Like self-centeredness. It's at the core of my disease. I'm an extremely self-centered individual. Um, but I'm not an asshole, right? As I read into these books, like I'm not a dick, right? I don't have a moral deficiency. Like I'm not doing this on purpose to be an asshole. Um, and when I read a little bit more, it tells me I'm not even responsible for the stuff I did in my disease, which, bro, that's a beautiful thing to know coming off in here. Because when I first got here, I didn't read all that stuff when I first got here, and if I did, it would have helped me get a little bit farther, a little sooner. But I don't regret anything. It was my process. It was my process, and so. I don't have to live up to anybody's expectations today, Tom. I can just do me. I can be me. I can do exactly what I want to do, and I don't have to explain myself to anybody today. Um, and when I make mistakes, I'm not like burning the shit down because I'm realizing, man, it's not about me today, right? When I pray this thing away, when I pray that self will back to God, my higher power is God. I know God's got me, man. He's watching at all times. So I'm constantly doing the right thing especially when nobody's looking, Tom, because God's always watching.
Mm.
That's freedom for me, man. That's freedom for me. It shows me it's my attaboy to myself. Like I can walk around with my head held a little bit higher because I do the right thing. And it's not about like who's seeing who's what, the attaboys, man. It's about just living spiritually, with spiritual principles. The only way you're gonna get it is doing the steps though. So you got to work those steps, man. So important. But that's my answer to that. I don't have to be perfect to like inspire other people, man. I just have to be me and be the best I can be doing what I do, and that's how I can inspire others. It's not about telling people what to do. It's not about, hey, you got to do this and you'll get this. Just be me, inspire others that way. You know what I mean? And how I deal with my imperfections and my setbacks is how I can pump other people up, man. Just naturally. So love you guys, man.
I love that. Okay, Mr. Thomas Smith, do you have a question for me?
Yes, I have some questions written down and
Mhm.
they're well worded, but something just popped into my mind
Okay.
as
Yes.
we were talking. So I'm going to go off the cuff and I'm not going to
Mhm.
not going to be as well put together of a question. I like to think that some of your listeners are new in recovery.
Okay.
Um,
Oh yeah.
I'm hopeful that people listen to this podcast that are just sober or trying to get sober. So I like to consider that, because us people who feel fairly comfortable not drinking and doing drugs can sit around and, you know, pat each other's back all we want. But for the new guy, um, I'm thinking in like I've said in new recovery, I thought I wasn't going to be able to do certain things that I thought I
Mhm.
wasn't going to that I thought that I would want to do. And
Mhm.
that wasn't freedom. And certainly many of those things that I thought I was going to want to do, I stopped wanting to do. It just
Mhm.
never became an issue because that wasn't the way I was living my life anymore. But there are certain things and certain places that I like to go as a sober guy that I liked to go and get fucked up at too. Um, my question for you is, Milan,
Mhm.
when is the last time that you either went to a place or were around people or, did a certain activity that you used to do and get loaded during? And how were you able to do that sober? And what was that experience like? And how did you take certain steps to ensure that it would be successful as a sober person?
So, I just went to one of my first weddings, which, like, I mean, I was like life of the fucking wedding. Like, I'm not bragging. I just like, I always put on a show. Almost every wedding I was at as an adult, I probably played in a band that was playing at it, or played music at some point, or whatever. And so my wife's cousin's daughter got married on the 30th of August or 29th. Anyway, so we went down for that. And so if I think back, that's probably the last thing that definitely would have been, would have been a trigger or would have been an event that it was like in my reservation list, you know, like how could I go to a wedding and not party? And so I would say the thing, first of all, that I did was, um, I made sure we had our own room somewhere that was off the site. It's not like we were camping at the wedding, first of all, like, right in the middle of the party. And then I would say that I made sure that I had ample amounts of non alcoholic beverages, you know, and, and then I would say that while I was there, I just really got involved with people or the activities that were going on. We're like, I would say that I almost use service as a replacement for substance. Can I be the one to help move the chairs? Can I be the only straight guy at the axe throwing contest, ensuring that nobody gets hit with an axe? Like that was, and you laugh, but then people were starting to try and throw like fucking 5 pound long handled axes. And if you can imagine how that could spin around and hit someone in their own face, that could be really bad. So I was actually like the voice of safety and reason for the first time in my life, and also developed a cool underhand hatchet throwing technique, which, yeah, like almost like ninja stars. But it was really fun. Was I as great on the dance floor? No. Like, I was way better on the dance floor in my mind, or
No, you
just
just
like,
thought you were. Yeah, I was gonna
yeah,
say you thought
but
you were.
either way, I found myself a little more self-conscious on the dance floor. They also were playing music that really was not my kind of music to dance to, but I still got out there and gave it a try. And, you know, um, it was cool because we had my wife's dad and my parents there, and I performed a lot of shuffling for people. I was like, "Oh, you need to go there. I can shuffle you there," and had the time and inclination, and like I didn't have that 0 hour window like Tom was talking about for being able to drive. Like I was like, "Oh, you want to go home at 8:30? Okay, I could be back by 9:15. Take them to the hotel and come back." And like I could be like letting my wife be on autopilot for the first time in our life. And to be quite honest, that was a really satisfying thing. And I remember every part of the wedding, and nobody was mad at me the next day. There was not a single person mad at me. So, I think at this point, it's for sure for me to um, ensure that I have my own supplies. When other people say, "Oh, we'll have some non-alcoholic things or whatever," just go out and get what you want, because then you're at least insured like something that you're going to enjoy. Like one thing I've found in an alcoholic situation is carbonation does a wonderful simulation of making water different. Like sometimes it's just even carbonated water, and I feel like I'm having a treat. And I don't know about you guys, but I find that that can be enough for me. Like I don't need to have some sort of sweet, fruity, whatever or anything. I just need to have something in my hand that takes care of that nervous fidgetiness. And
Mhm.
recognizing that and making sure that I have like enough on hand is quite enough. And I think that's my answer for that one.
Dope, man. Dope answer. I'll take that question, Tom.
Yeah, when was the last time you were involved in a situation, place that maybe you had some trepidation going into, but you know, you did the deal, you talked to people, you decided that it was a worthwhile place for you to go. And how did you do it?
Great question. It's so funny that you said axe throwing Milan because when he asked this question, the first thing that came to my mind is we have like work functions and work parties every once in a while for whether it's like a birthday or like somebody's getting married or whatever. We just have those parties where the last one we just went to was Top Golf. I don't know if y'all have any Top Golfs or know what I'm talking about. It's like a
It's like the
big,
fake
For sure,
golf.
man.
yeah, it's like a big fake golf, but then it also has axe throwing. It's just like the place that all like the big companies go to for their company parties, and it's just a huge place that for a lot of adult fun and every bars, gambling, all that stuff. Um, and I mean, I was a little worried because I don't really. There's a couple people that I work with that I don't fancy very much. That they just really drive me nut. They drive me crazy, and they don't show up to work, so I just don't have any respect for them. And it's hard for me to not to like lie to their face or like be in a good mood and all chatty Cathy with them when they just destroy my life every day when they don't show up and when they act a certain way. You know what I mean? So, um, but it's really I was up in my head and it's really about my thoughts. Because once I got there, man, it was cool, man. And it wasn't that I was worried about like the alcohol or anything like that. It was just the social setting. Everything that I used to do socially was, I was high up before I went. I had a pocket full of drugs. You know what I mean? I always would have a pocket full of drugs, enough pills to get me through the event, enough, man. I always had it, man. I had my little hiding spots and I was just completely saturated every time. And so, and I've been to functions before. You asked about the last one that I've kind of been through, but the main one right before that was when I had to go to Louisville. I didn't have to go to Louisville. I went to go to see my fiance and my essentially my new stepson, in Louisville, and I had to fly there. And bro, I remember traveling for work, sneaking drugs on the plane, having it taped to my fucking nutsack, and walking through the fucking turnaround, knowing I had pills up in my crotch. It could have lost my job, gone to jail. I was working for a place that was flying me to the Caribbean islands, where I was working on like laundry and galley works for Caribbean cruise ships and submarines and ships. A really cool job, man. Where I had a security clearance and my what did they call it? A passport, and I was traveling all over the place. But every time, bro, I would have. Bro, I was such a fiend. I would have enough pills to get me through, and I would actually take weed. I would take weed. I was such a fucking head that I would take a little bud, knowing there's drug dogs, knowing that I wouldn't take a bunch, but I would take enough where like I wouldn't be sick at work. You know what I mean? So I'd be up in my hotel room and smoking a little bowl, risking getting in trouble there too. But I was just a fucking idiot, man. Such an idiot. But I always had drugs, always had pills, always was drinking at the airports before my flights, taking a piss on the plane because I had too many drinks. Just I remember how sloshy I was. And I thought I was like, I had it going on. And I'm talking about I would be flying to somewhere and have to work that day. But I'm like flying, so it's what I do, man. I drink and use. It's pretty sad though, but being able to get on that plane, knowing I was going there and I don't even have to go to the pharmacy for, sleeping pill. I don't take any medication. If I have a headache, I might pop an Excedrin, but like, that's it, man. A Bayer or a BC powder when you got things to do. That's it. Other than that, I don't need to go to the drugstore. I don't need to have anything in my pocket in terms of that. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It may seem like a small thing to most people, but to us, that's a big deal. Being able to go there and not having a allotted amount of drugs, 3 or 4 different types of drugs allotted for that amount of time, getting them smuggled through. I did a lot of really stupid things when I was wrapped up in my disease. So being able to go on that vacation, going on a trip, go axe throwing a little bit. I thought about this as I was sitting there marinating on it. My house, my bed, man, I used to use constantly in my house. Being able to, I know some people have had to leave their house, leave their surroundings, but I've been able to comfortably live and sleep, in the same bed area that I was when I was really, really heavy in my disease. And then I wrote this down: the mirror. I used to not be able to do the mirror thing. I used to hate myself when I looked at myself in the mirror, bro. I can look at myself in the mirror today and be proud of myself because of the work I've done today. So great question, man. Thank you for asking that.
Okay, Thomas, could you please ask Thomas?
Yeah. Well, actually, Andrew, it's funny, as you were talking about flying with drugs, it reminded me of a story that I wanted to share, and it's an example of the lack of freedom that addiction gives you. And this is the last time I got sober. This was 8.5 years ago, or 8+ years ago, not quite 8.5. And this is an example of how I am not here due to my own virtues. I was heavily addicted to opiates, and I live in a place where you can buy opiates at a pharmacy. And I was taking 6 40-milligram oxycodones a day.
You're better with me, man. That's me.
5 to 6, and my health was not going well. I was like 30 pounds less than I am now. It was not good. And I would fly with them back to the States. But typically my trips were, a week, right? And I could figure out a way to get enough in. I wouldn't bring as many as I wanted, but I would bring as many as it took to not get sick,
In the boxes, or how'd you do that?
I would fill up other types of pill
That's
bottles.
what you do? Okay.
Yeah. So like I've
done
get
that.
the one, because they come in all shapes and sizes, different pharmacies, they're all knockoff narco
Get the
pills
similar ones.
So I would get ones that looked kind of like, the Advil, or kind of like something else, something that I could potentially play off at customs to not go to prison. But I had a family trip, and mind you, my whole family didn't know that I was doing drugs at this time. They thought I was still sober because I'd been sober for 4.5 years before I relapsed on pain pills. Um, so we planned a trip that was 6 weeks. We were going to go to
Ooh.
the States. We were going to go to Iceland. We had these big fucking plans, me and my 8-month-old son and my wife.
Rut-row.
So I didn't do the exact math, but I was going to have to fly in with like upwards of 200 oxys. And I didn't have the balls to
Personal
do
use.
that. That's like, dude, that's real prison, right? That's like,
Real prison, bro.
trafficking in from a foreign country,
Mm.
real deal jail time. And I didn't have the balls to do it, right? So I thought, fuck it, I'm gonna have to kick. And I dumped all of my remaining pills in the bathroom on the American Airlines flight and got out and walked into America and was like, all right, I'm just going to fucking cold turkey this deal. And I made it, to the next morning before coming clean and saying, oh my God, I'm a fucking junkie and all those things. So, and then started the withdrawal from hell because I was withdrawing not only off those, but benzos too. So anyway, that's my story about flying with drugs and the lack of freedom provided by the addiction to those drugs. So I wouldn't wish that on anybody. As far as things that I do to remain able to go wherever I want to go, I live in a place where everybody's partying all the time. It's a Mexican beach town. People come here to get fucked up and they offer you margaritas when you get off the plane, sort of joint. So going anywhere, I gotta be pretty solid, but after a while, being around alcohol and drug use so much, it just becomes not a thing. It doesn't affect me whatsoever. Certain things though do. And I like live music. In particular, I like one band that has a fairly hefty drug following, drug culture, and I used to do a lot of drugs surrounding that sort of music. So it took a while, honestly, like 10 years from when I first got sober to like dip my foot back into that pool. That was like the last frontier I had to cross to go back to these shows. And I went with another sober guy and another buddy of mine who was not sober. But like I had my own hotel room, like Milan was talking about. I flew to a different town. I had my own hotel room. I knew where the AA meetings were in that town before I went to it. And people knew I was there. My sponsor knew I was there. The people that I was with knew that I was sober,
Insurance.
all those things, right? I put the insurance in place before I even went. And this is so fucking important to anybody who's considering doing something like this. I had an escape route. I knew that I could leave, and I knew that I was going to leave if I needed to leave, right? Like getting into a situation where you feel trapped and you're uncomfortable in early recovery or whatever is something I very much recommend not doing. Drive yourself, have your own hotel, feel comfortable telling the people that you're with, I gotta fucking go, bro, and go. I had an experience in early recovery where I was at a restaurant in downtown Austin, Texas, with a bunch of coworkers. We were there, and if you guys have been to Austin, 6th Street is like fucking Bourbon Street. It's party time. Every bar, there's like bands coming out, music coming out, there's hot chicks everywhere. It's like this scene that you just want to be fucked up at. And I left this dinner to go back to my own hotel room. My coworkers stayed. They were all partying. They were drinking at dinner. I wasn't. And I remember walking out of that bar and I wasn't running home, but I was close to it. I was walking as fast as I could with blinders on. Don't look in the bar. Don't look in the bar. Don't look at that woman. Don't listen to that band. Get the fuck out of here. And I had to go back to my hotel room and I had to call my sponsor and I had to be not talked off a ledge, but like, hey, bro, I'm really uncomfortable here. Like, this fucking sucks. And that was the deal, right? I had those things in place, similar to the things that I put in place when I went to this concert years later. And lo and behold, I didn't need any of it at the concert. I was fucking dialed in, man. Like I said, I had the best time. It was that like eye-opening moment. It was another one of those like spiritual experiences that you have in recovery where it was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And I always thought people that say, oh, life is so much better sober. I was like, fuck you, no, it can't be. Like, that's not, bullshit, right? But it
Loser.
was, dude, it was like that experience was this like mind-blowing, like, oh my gosh. Another level of like, oh, everything that these old timers or people with time, whatever, everything they've been telling me is true and keeps getting better. These experiences keep becoming open to me that just blow my mind again and again and again. And I am a firm belief that the reason that it was so wonderful and so eye-opening for me was because I had put all the insurance pieces into place. Had I just gone in fucking without it, had I raw dogged it, I would have,
Yes.
I wouldn't have felt as comfortable. It was that like back of the mind, knowing that I was safe, I was cool, I knew what to do if I needed to do it, that I could fully let down and let loose. So for anybody that's new, anybody that, is thinking about how are you going to do X, Y, and Z later in life, there are ways. There are ways to
Don't
do it.
raw dog it. Wear a condom.
Don't raw dog it, man, and be
There's
honest with
lube.
yourself. That's the other thing that I can say. Be honest with yourself and make sure that you are there. And the big book talks about this. Make sure that your intentions are right. Why are you there?
Yeah.
Are you there
Yeah.
to celebrate your niece's fucking daughter, whoever it is, wedding? Are you there in the airport to go see your fiance? Like, are you there for, trying to, pick up a married chick, right? Is your intent
Yeah.
in line with the principles of Alcoholics or Narcotics Anonymous? And if it is, you should go and rock and roll. If it's not, you're probably going to run into some trouble, and better to be honest with yourself and bail altogether. If you can, this is a program about honesty, and mostly it's honesty about your own motives and you with yourself. So you got to really put it through the ringer. And if it comes out that you should go, fucking go, man. Just put some plans in place to make sure that you're successful.
Love
Love
that.
that, man. Beautiful.
For anybody out there who doesn't know, like where Tom lives is somewhere that I've vacationed and lived actually some winters. Like, so last winter was really my first sobriety adventure there. And it was the greatest family trip we ever had. But like no other trip was even close. It was the first trip that my wife woke up and I was home every day. Ever,
That's special, man.
ever in 20 freaking 3 years, man. But it was amazing. Like, that what you focus on becomes greater, right? And
Poster.
I was focusing on recovery and family and those things grew. With, when you just look at Sayulita for the partying, you have no clue that there's this recovery community hiding there. And if you just look at his recovery, it's like the partying doesn't even bug you. So, okay.
That's beautiful, man.
I got a question for you, Andrew.
All right.
Okay, so for myself, I've been finding a lot of my freedom coming from discipline, commitment, and surrender. Is this the case for you or not? And if so, or if not, elaborate on that.
Yeah, well, God, you said the key word surrender there. Yeah, discipline and surrender. I get
And
a lot of,
commitment.
and commitment. Yes, but I want to add on to that, yes, surrender, but like acceptance. Acceptance is where it comes, connection, the spiritual principles, but discipline for sure, for sure. But letting go of control, that's the surrender, man. That true power that I get through this program is in letting that shit go. A lot of people think that the surrender thing, surrendering, that term in general, if you don't know what you're looking at, when you think about that, you can think about that as like a negative term, like you're weak, like there's a weak aspect to it. But the more I've been able to understand that I can identify, I can surrender, identify, and turn whatever I have in front of me in that day over. Like I can 1, 2, and 3 anything, any decision I make throughout the day. And that starts with that surrender process, and eventually turning it over to the God of my understanding. Man, I can do what I can about what I'm doing, and I can surrender the rest. And that has been such a load off of me, man, because I heard somewhere that this is a program of surrender, not self-improvement. I'm not sure if you heard that anywhere, Tom, but I heard that somewhere, and I have not been able to get that off my brain. So um, and serenity comes when we trade expectations for acceptance, Milan. We've talked about that before, right? Like the acceptance, the connection. When I feel connected to other addicts, man, my higher power is no longer isolated in that prison of my own mind, man. Like when I'm connected to y'all, this is my higher power working right now. The fact that I am free flowing and we're having this conversation, helping each other out in real time is my spirituality informed, man. This is what I do to try to survive today. If I wasn't here, I'd have to go fill my brain with something else because I just can't stay isolated. I can't stay isolated, man. Connection is where I really, really get a lot of um, everything out of this program. It's the opposite of my disease. I need connection. I need community. I need service. I need to be of service to other people because, again, I got to get out of my own self-centered thinking, man. I got to get out of my own self-centered thinking. I got half of my brain always selling the best bullshit in town. The other half is always buying that exact same bullshit. And bro, when I'm talking to myself in my own voice, I can't say no. So, yeah, we'll keep it pretty quick on that one, man. That's my answer. I love you,
I
Milan.
love
Good
that.
question, bro.
Okay, Mr. Thomas Smith. So I've been finding a lot of my freedom in discipline, commitment, and surrender. Is this the case for you or not? And please elaborate.
Well, yes. Short answer.
He's done.
Walk off.
So when I try to fix, manage, and control things in my life, that's like a never-ending spiral downwards. It just causes more things that I need to try to fix, manage, and control. The more I get my hands into stuff and try to control outcomes, the more fucked up my life gets, frankly. So the idea of surrender is, letting outcomes go and understanding that what I think is the best solution or the best outcome might be the worst. I might be selling myself short. I might not really know what is good for me and what's not good for me. So if I can, surrender to my higher power's will and surrender to the belief and trust that everything is going to work out the way that it's supposed to work out, whether or not I, get over involved or micromanage, force certain things that aren't meant to be forced. God, just thinking about that, every time I can remember that, like in my mind, it like gives me the ability to take a deep breath and be like, like I get this the low level of tightness in my chest that I exist with on a regular basis is like relieved, you know. I'm not, there's not a million things in my mind like spinning around. You know those clips from movies like, and by no means am I saying I'm like this, but where there's like a mathematician looking at a board and like all these equations are coming at him. You know, I think there's like A Beautiful Mind or one of those movies. These are like the geniuses, right? Where they can like see the fucking equations and it's like coming in and out. That's how my mind works, but it's all fucking bullshit that's coming at me. You know, it's like just like constantly bombarded by you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do, and it's like probably there's a level of undiagnosed ADD going on,
All
but
Charlie
whatever.
Brown voices. Wah, 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 wah.
Yes, it's totally, it's like this is happening and that's happening. And like, oh my God, big blinding lights. You got to go do this right fucking now. Can you believe you forgot it?
Run, go.
Yeah, like that's how I exist, right? On some level. And when I'm able to just be like, oh, okay, like I trust that this is going to get resolved in the way that it's supposed to be resolved, there's this level of freedom that's like, holy shit. And I'm not even talking about like the freedom to go do something or not do something or what. It's this like release and freedom from the bondage of self that I get.
Shit.
That is, God, I mean, it's priceless, right? When you're living in a current state of like overwhelm to some degree, that those like reminders and those brief intervals of serenity are fucking priceless. And
Priceless,
they
bro.
get more and more frequent, you know, as you work a program. For me, like I've recently reintegrated meditation into my daily practice. And I say recently, I wish it wasn't recently, but I mean, I wish I had maintained this practice throughout my recovery. I was fucking great with meditation in early recovery until I had a second child. And I wasn't able to sneak away for 20, 30 minutes in the morning as I was with one kid, and my wife was like, all right, cool off, you know, you go off. And now it's two and it's a shit show. And now I don't have that period of time. And I thought, oh, I'll do it later in the day. Never fucking did
Mm-mm.
it. So it's important for me. Now the children are a little bit older. They sleep in a little bit later. I'm able to wake up earlier and do it. And I've been pretty damn consistent with it. And boy, is that important. And my addict mind was like, how important can 10 minutes of meditation be? What can it really do for you? You don't need to do it. You're okay. You know, that's how, but when I'm doing it, it's like a brief respite from the madness. Sometimes it's super effective, sometimes it's less, but it doesn't matter. It gives me a chance to like shut down the engines and like just exist for a second. And that freedom is priceless, you know? And now that I'm back doing it, I'm reminded of how important it is for me to get that. And the benefit that it gives me for the rest, it brings me back to the starting line, right? And like then I can proceed to be a fucking lunatic the rest of the day. Like incrementally, I can get to my like lunatic mode by the end of the day. But if I don't do that, I'm starting the day in lunatic mode, you know? And by the end of the day, I'm fucking super lunatic.
Psychonaut.
Yeah.
Yes, it gives me the opportunity to like get back to the beginning, and then hopefully by the end of the day, I haven't like ruined anything. But without that, I'm fucked, you know? So that level of and that kind of bleeds into your next thought on discipline, right? It's a discipline. I got to wake up early. I got to set my alarm to wake up early before my kids get up. And that I don't like to do. I like to fucking sleep in sometimes. I don't like to do it. So there it is. It's discipline, and it allows me freedom. You know, it's kind of counterintuitive, right? What you asked, like discipline allows for those two things. That seems like an oxymoron, right? Um, but it's not. We are talking about like a level of personal freedom that I wasn't quite able to wrap my head around before, certainly before getting sober. Um, all those things that I just thought were who I was, the anxiety, the anger, the judgments, all the character defects, all those things that I just thought that's me, that's who I am. Um, the things that I've been taught in recovery have given me a chance to be free from those. Whether all the time free from those, I'm free from certain things all the time. Others I'm free from when I'm able to remember to do the shit that I'm supposed to be doing. Um, that's the freedom that we're talking about, I believe, in essence, right? The freedom from the bondage of self, the freedom from who I was, the person that I was that was making all these decisions that were effectively ruining my life. And why I was that person, we can go into that's a whole nother fucking topic, right? Whether it be childhood stuff or, genetic stuff or whatever, like why that person was created and who I was at 33 when I first got sober. My life experiences up until that point, I thought that was me. I thought that was just who I was, going to be that way my whole life, and there's nothing I can do about it. The freedom from that guy, um, or the parts of that guy that were not great, my character defects, that is what discipline, surrender, spirituality, those things have given me.
Beautiful answer, man.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, so I'm finding a lot of freedom in discipline, commitment, and surrender. So obviously that's the case for me. Um, but I would say that it's like almost like your speedometer or tachometer in your car. My freedometer was run by different things before. Like my freedometer was like the not getting fucked with while I'm saying fuck it. Like that's where it used to be. And inside the program, which like, man, I have run some part of my program every single day that I've been straight. Like coming up on 2 years on the 1st of October. And
I know
so
him. Sorry.
like 700 and freaking probably 16 days I've run some format of my program. And so it's not by chance that I'm sitting here straight. Like, uh when I act with discipline and commitment, I did a podcast with Scotty N there. Shout out to Scotty N. Love you, brother.
Scotty.
That podcast on discipline really showed
Boots.
me, like, I just never looked at it the same before, but it's like, I used to feel like that was a trap. If I had to do the same thing every day, that meant that I wasn't really free to do what I wanted that day. But the thing is that it's like, now that I'm not, I need this right now, this second, all the time in addict mode, fight or flight, or whatever the heck you want to call it. Like now that I can actually have like long-term growth aspirations, right? It's like that discipline and that commitment creates that growth over time. And so like I'm not wondering if I'm doing something good for myself. I know that getting up and exercising, that's doing something good for myself. I know that getting the rest I need to not be an asshole, to heal from my exercise, to make me nicer for tomorrow, that is not, like that's not a trap. That's actually like loving myself, which like, you know, um it's all part of that. Like the whole ability to sustain my quitting of cigarettes has just like opened my life up to physical activity and also healing and more singing, and everything that I love to do is is um is a result of creating a better vessel for me to recover inside of. Like it's really, really important to me now, to keep growing in that direction because I'm feeling results from it. And like I'm not wondering if I'm doing the right thing, but I'm also not negatively reflecting on like shit I shoulda, woulda, shoulda, coulda. Like procrastination for me creates shame. Like some people can procrastinate and not give a shit, or at least pretend to not give a shit. But if I procrastinate, it's like that freaking hamster wheel starts, like from the drugs. Oh man, you should have done this, you should have done that. Now tomorrow you're gonna have way more shit to do, blah 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 blah. And it's just not there if I have the discipline and the commitment, and then coupled with surrender, where it's like I get to cut the strings from all those expectations and all those people controlling my emotions for the day. Like
Mm.
that is the freedom. Like every single thing that I'm expecting out of you is a string that's controlling my emotion there. It's like a predetermined bitching. Like I'm just like, fuck man, come on, man. You should be doing this. I deserve this. That makes me crazy. And with that shit getting silenced, um, and it comes from prayer. It comes from that meditation. For me, it comes from exercise and from eating something right and getting enough rest. Like that's a formula that gets me sane. And that sane and serenity is is what is going to keep me like, I live in my mind all day long. So mental freedom is so much more important to me than physical freedom. Like the physical freedom to consume a substance or whatever it is. It's like when I have that mental freedom, it goes with me everywhere and it's accessible everywhere if I create that state inside of me. And that's the like, for me today, the reason I wanted to do this topic is because I want people to see that there can be different freedom than what you're thinking freedom is now. Like
Yeah.
you're saying, you're hoping that there's a newcomer, Tom. And I think a newcomer is living in that freedom where they're just like, they just want to stop using for 1 minute, right? And, and they don't even know what freedom is lurking around the corner with the application of this program. Like until I did my first step four, I had no clue. I had no clue how much relief I could start to feel from living these steps. And once I did, I was like, holy shit, let's go. And and so yeah, I really think for me it's like discipline, commitment, surrender, like those are my major freedom creating things now, you know. And I think that's it
Beautiful.
for me on that answer.
Beautiful. You ready for my question, Tom?
You bet.
All right, my man. So let's talk about what threatens your sense of freedom today, if anything.
If anything. Um, my own life choices. I uh I have built a pretty good deal for myself. Um, due to, the gifts I've been given in recovery. And I I can fuck it up. I've proven that to myself. Um, I am by no means a finished product or a perfect person. I'm very fucking far from that. And I've proven to myself that I can make really fucking bad choices. And I can, um, do those and make those choices because I think that it's going to give me what I want. It's going to make something better. It's going to make me feel something different. And honestly, the hardest thing for me right now is continuing commitment to do the uncomfortable, hard personal work that I need to do to get to where I want to be. There are days in there are days when I decide, and I have a voice inside my head, a very convincing voice. And so convincing that it doesn't even sound like a voice. It sounds like exactly me, like I can't differentiate it from, my true self, let's call it, that says, you're all set, man. You don't need to do anything else. Anybody that tells you otherwise can go fuck themselves, and especially your family, right? They don't get you. They don't know you. They don't understand or appreciate you. That's what this voice says, because personal relationships for me are the challenge. They're the biggest challenge I have in my life. The closer, the more challenging, right? So let's take my family, my wife and kids, right? They can elicit a response in me that is not real. Let's put it that way. That is, a defense mechanism that I have used my whole life, and that's to push people away from me or convince myself that they don't have my best interests at heart. They're trying to pull one over on me. They're manipulating me, And in order for me to combat that, I become a dickhead, or I become detached or whatever. And I find myself in a pickle. I find myself increasingly more isolated. I find people want to be around me less. Um, and that may sound like freedom, right? Hey, get out of here, go do what you want. That's not the freedom I'm looking for, right? I become a prisoner in my own mind. And I become a prisoner to this voice or this part of me that I don't know, man. It's really wild. It tells me that I don't need anybody else, and that I'm better off alone, or that I'm better off, doing something completely different than what I'm doing now. And it pushes me in that direction. And then I get to a point where the clouds part, and I find myself in a painful place, and I realize, holy shit, that is not real. That is not what I need to be paying attention to. And that voice doesn't have my best interest at heart. So I say my own decisions, and my own decisions, whether I remain focused and committed and disciplined to this process that I have committed to already, and being recovery and doing the things that I know are good for me. And when I am, and when I do those things, I don't find myself listening to that voice. It quiets down. It's not there. It's when I make the decision, I'm going to fucking skip a meeting, or I'm not going to call this guy now, or that new guy, I'll talk to him after the next meeting, or I'm going to skip a meditation, or I'm going to, whatever. When I make enough of those decisions in a row, this insidious part of me just all of a sudden, and I don't even know it's coming, right? It's all just, it all one morphs into the other. I become inside and then outside this different person. And it's because doing the right thing and making the right choices sometimes are hard. Sometimes they're uncomfortable. And like I said, right now I'm like exploring, I guess is the right word, investigating my own psyche, the deep dark corners of my mind that are uncomfortable to investigate. And they're uncomfortable to uncover and live in and realize why I've been acting these ways that aren't great, that I don't love for my whole life. These like comfortable defects, these defects that I maybe think I want to get rid of, but don't really want to get rid of because they're actually like defense mechanisms I've had my whole life. Um, really digging into that shit, or the decision to not do it because it feels too hard, that is what I know can bring me right back to my old way of thinking and my old way of behaving. And before long, thinking and behaving that way, I'm loaded. I know it. I fucking know it because it gets too uncomfortable and I'm too alone and it's too painful. And then I'm loaded, Those are the things that could really jeopardize the freedom that I've gained through recovery and through working a 12-step program.
Beautiful answer, Tom. I love you, man. I love you too, Milan, but I love you, Tom. We missed you, man. Missed you, bro.
Yeah, I miss you guys too.
I'm going to ask you this. So what, if anything, Milan, threatens your sense of freedom today?
Well, I feel Tom touched on a couple of the things there that come to my mind. For sure, a lack of discipline. A lack of discipline, like on the days where yeah, you don't need to go for that extra walk. Oh, you ran up the hill 3 days this week. You don't need to do another 2 days running up the hill. Like any of it that kind of pushes me off the things that are actually making me feel good and grow inside my life. Like, uncomfortability is almost part of everything that gives me a result that I love in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, man, like I get up early every day and my desired action would be to make a tea and record music and just like not do all the other stuff I do. Like, like if I could, if lazy, ineffective Milan had his way, that would be my morning every day. But instead, it's like filled with gratitudes and prayers and exercise and all these things. And if I don't do those things, which I have had to have, like, I've had some opportunities for work where I had to leave really early recently. And like my whole morning thing was shot. And I'm like, why am I such a jerk today? Like, why am I not feeling like my regular self like I have? Because now it's a really strong contrast when I'm not in that zone or plugged in or whatever, like, tapped in, as you were saying, Andrew. Like, when I'm tapped in, it's like I'm fucking wearing a bulletproof vest spiritually, And when I'm not, it's like I'm wearing a fucking mesh football shirt in the 70s that's cut off at my ribs. And you, and you just like.
Jerk face, Milan.
That's right.
That's a good look, though. That's a good look.
Yeah, it is a good look, but you got to be a
Your
little
belly
fitter than
button's
me.
hanging out. The belly button's hanging out underneath it.
Yeah. But, and another thing that pulls me from my freedom is just falling into old mental patterns, which, is the easiest to do with family members. Like that is like, man, you want to talk the real battleground of like, how's your spiritual fitness? Get into a frickin' argument with your daughter and see how fucking accepting and loving and compassionate and everything you are. Or your wife. Like, can you stand up in those moments and walk away and say, boy, I loved completely in that situation? 1 Corinthians 13, not a frickin' chance. But the thing is, though, is I do now have the ability to pull myself out of it. Where I'm like, oh, I'm like, I'm leaving the room to recalibrate. I need to breathe or recenter, whatever. And that wasn't there before. My like, need to be rightness, that self-seeking thought pattern was like, I gotta show them. Like they're gonna, if they'd only understand, and it really was like that. And then, like, man, if I'm acting dishonestly, selfishly, unlovingly, I just quickly become disconnected. And I really feel it now. And that's one thing that I must say that I'm really loving the two-way prayer as part of my morning for, is that I'm keeping myself calibrated before the events and giving myself more better options. I just think that preemptive preemptive serenity building is the only way that I'm going to have that acceptance, that courage, that discernment, that wisdom to get through the situations. You know, I'm really glad that last winter I started seeing that, I had the serenity prayer backwards. That I thought acceptance was going to give me serenity, but it's serenity that gives me acceptance.
I love you, man.
Love you too.
Sorry about that. So you want me to answer now?
Yeah.
So what if anything threatens my sense of freedom today? Man, y'all hit on a lot of really good things. But the first thing that comes to my mind is the self-will piece, man. My own self-will. That thing is he's a tricky bastard, man. I feel like God hands me that self-will on that silver platter every single morning. And he disguises it. He like tricks me, tries to trick me and see if I'm going to take it and run off with it. But I've gotten pretty conditioned to praying that thing right back to him. And then throughout the day, I'm constantly praying it back to him if I get it out of sorts, man. I've gotten really comfortable with the prayer piece. But ego, my ego edging God out, that's another threat. If I'm caught up in, ego, letting pride take over. What does pride stand for? One of the primary reasons I die early. Threatens my freedom, man. Threatens my freedom. My ego and pride can really get in there and cause some havoc upstairs for me. So, when I start thinking like I'm above the basics, you hit on this, Tom, man. Definitely. If I start thinking that I got this thing licked in any form or fashion, I'm done. As soon as I start thinking I don't have to go to meetings, my certain meetings that I like to go to or that I frequent, just for no reason, just than other than I've got other better things to do. I need to watch out. I need to watch out. So, um, my ego will set me up for isolation, and then we all know where it goes from there. So, old behaviors, you hit on that, Milan. Old behaviors are a huge threat. Like, even if I'm clean, I still have old behaviors, and I have new shitty behaviors too. But I want to think in my mind that because I'm clean, like it's going to be okay. Well, like laws still apply, and like decency still applies, and like just normal being a good person, all the rules still apply, man. I can still go to jail, I can still go to the hospital, I can still go even worse. So I gotta really check myself every single day. I gotta check who's coming to the table. um Another one is fear, man. Fear. Fear used to cripple me. It's my acronym for fear. My new one is false, or no, it's false evidence appearing real. That's another one for it. But future events already ruined. As soon as I get caught up in that fear, man, bro, I'm setting myself up for failure, and to not get the most out of that situation and the most out of life, man. If I start getting crippled by fear, man, I like that will only add to itself. That downward slope is hard to get out of when you start going that way. For me, it's like I'm all in or all out, and once I start out, it's hard to get me back going on track. So complacency will kill me every time, man. What happens when we deal with some complacency, Milan?
Come place your ass in the seat.
Thank you. Did you hear that? Did you hear that, Tom? Does that make sense? So when you're dealing with complacency,
Come place your ass in the seat.
It's the same word. It's the same word, man. It's the same word, man. Bring it. That's what my sponsor says. Come place that ass in the seat, young man. What we doing? We got to get back to the basics.
I like that, man. I like that.
Oh yeah. So today, freedom. I gotta stay vigilant. It doesn't matter what's going to come and threaten me. I got to understand that I've got a program. I got people around me that will help me out if I don't know how to deal with it. And I've got to stay connected. Consistent action and recovery. There's something really, really special that happens when consistency is added to the mixture here, man. Because we can do really good for a certain amount of time and have one bad day, and everything we've done up until that point can be thrown out of the window. So I got to stay consistent. Freedom is threatened when I stay when I stay out of those basics, man. My freedom is threatened every single time. So I got to stay with what works, man, because if it's not broke, don't fix it. So that's me, man.
Let me chime in on that. Something you said there at the end, Andrew, that yes, one bad day can ruin all the progress that we've made. This was important for me to realize both in early recovery and now. Because yes, one bad day can kill the progress. But I always operated under that assumption and then went to immediately, well, fuck it then. Oh, I blew it one day, fuck it. What does it matter? It's all ruined now.
Yeah.
It's been very important to me in my life to get back on the horse, right? Like, whether it be something small, like, oh, I miss, a day of my spiritual practice, and the next, oh, I fucking blew it, I'm not going to do it today. Or, oh, I ate that last night. Here's an example. Last night I've been trying to eat no sugar, no like dessert type sugar anymore, because it makes me feel like shit in the morning. And last night I ate a bowl of ice cream. I wanted to eat the ice cream, and lo and behold, I felt like shit. And today I'm tired and I don't feel good. Old Tom would have been like, wow, fuck it. I ate it last night. I'm going to go eat it every night. And da, da, da. I need to change my brain to be like, well, all right, you did that. Start again. Today's a new day. Not going to do it today. That was what it was. Or it can be a bigger thing like, well, I got loaded, And
Yeah.
this is a tricky one for new guys, right? You get loaded. You're like, well, fuck it. Might as well. I was counting. And this is my like gripe against, counting days and time in AA and NA is important. It's important to celebrate milestones for sure. But it can get, when people do have a relapse and people go out, they can say, well, I was sober for 2 years. Fuck it. I'm never going to get 2 years again. I might as well just keep, it's not about that shit, man. It's about the day
Yeah.
you stay sober. So if you go out and get loaded, get your fucking ass back ASAP, because you don't know if you're going to be able to, right? You may have the opportunity to get back at 2 days in. You may not have the opportunity to get back at 3 or 4 or 5 or a year in. You know what I mean? So very important to not have the case of the fuck it's, like I say.
Yep.
Well,
Your
did it
brain
once.
keeps track. Your
Yeah.
brain keeps track. Like if you let down, like if you don't push through with that thing that you're talking about, your brain will keep track without you even knowing it. Like it'll be just that much easier to shut down that next time. And on the opposite side, if you push through that hard time, like your brain will keep track of that too. So it'll get a little bit easier to push through that hard time next time. So it's about growing through that. And you hit on a good point, Tom. It doesn't matter if you go back out, get your fucking ass back here. I don't care how many times you go back out, bro. You go out 7 times, make sure that 8th one is the one. You go out 37 times, make sure that 38th one is the one. You've got to know that next one is the fucking one. It's the one. You got to get your ass back, man. There's no shame in going out, because we use drugs, bro. When we're not using drugs, we are in an abnormal state.
Well, and I think it's also like a thing of retraining your brain, like that saying, oh, okay, well, I did this and it's all gone, like like I've lost all traction, right? But you can also start training yourself to say that, oh, well, every time I start, it could be a new beginning, like it could like to train yourself that every start is the potential of a complete change. And it's like that which we focus on becomes greater, and it's like, maybe it's going to take a few repetitions, because I've had some friends who are fairly chronic relapsers, and in the last 2 years, like one of them has only been high 14 days out of 2 years. Like that in itself, I'm not condoning relapses, but what I'm saying is that guy would be dead if he wasn't trying all those other days.
That's way better than the other
like I'm not saying yay for the relapse, but I am saying yay for any day you make it off.
Yeah.
Like that is a win somewhere in the accounting books of health and life.
It's a miracle,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
It's a miracle. 1 day clean is a fucking miracle. It says that. So
Yeah. Exactly.
be proud of
Totally.
yourself.
Totally. I I gotta go in
Yeah.
15 minutes, guys. I have a therapy
Yeah.
call, but that on that vein, I was gonna ask you guys, I think it was my turn for the next question,
Yeah.
maybe.
Okay.
Um,
So I'll set a timer for 3 minutes on this round, and then you'll be
okay,
out of here
so
for sure.
my
Mhm.
question was gonna be, how can I keep choosing actions that bring me closer to peace, honesty, self-respect, instead of falling back into patterns that keep me trapped? I'm going to change the question on
Okay.
this vein to, what's an example of you falling back into old patterns? When did you notice that you fell back into old patterns, and how did you pull yourself out of it, and how did you get back on the right track?
Okay.
Wow.
So a good recent example for me is how I can remain service minded in my day to day with clients. Like it's really easy for me to get in this negative mindset, it, which I'd like to precurse with just saying that that was one of my ways where I was like, fuck it, I'm getting wasted tonight. Was that if I felt like I was not getting treated in a way that I deserved, or just like watching things and expectations being shattered by things that I can't control, like my I was not surrendering to the moment at all. And so now we actually have this free horse in our yard here. It's the fucking most beautiful horse ever. I got a free horse, and it's just like I literally am like, holy shit. I'm like, I have no control over this. I'm like, time to go pet the horse. And I'll
Yes.
just go out and make horse noises and let this horse kiss me and pet her. And it's just like,
It's your
I
higher
swear,
power,
but
universe.
it's like me just surrendering to self care instead of like staying on that hamster wheel. It's like literally finding a distraction for my mind is one of the ways that I stop myself from old habits. Because if I just sit there and try to control that weird thought thing without a distraction, I have no hope. No hope for myself. And that's what I got for that one.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. I'll take that question. I kind of know what the question is, but you can ask it again.
What is an example of an old pattern of behavior that you've fallen back into, and how did you pull yourself out of it?
Um, so a couple things kind of came to my mind. I I've had a few times early on, especially that I started isolating really, really heavy. I was isolating. I found myself sleeping in the 24-hour meetings. I mean, that's kind of how I got through it. Is I literally, there was about a 2 or 3 week period that I slept in that 24-hour meeting, through the night, like through the day, through the night, through the day, to kind of keep my mind running, because I was really slipping, man. I was slipping. There was a time early where I really didn't think that this program was for me. I was staying clean. I had like 30 between 30 and 60 days, and I just didn't want to be here. And I remember coming to a meeting and actually sharing where I was. I wasn't trying to just say what everybody else wanted me to say. I actually went up there and I talked about how I had been obsessing about using drugs for the past 3 days, and that I called my dealer, and he didn't answer. And I was lucky that he didn't, but I didn't know what else to do, and I was lost, man. I was lost, and bro, I had so many people come up to me that day and tell me that they needed to hear that they needed to hear that, and that I helped them that day, and it changed things for me. It showed me that this was the place for me, and that when they say that honest sharing is that antidote to our disease thinking, that's the absolute fact, bro. I get up there and I share exactly where I'm at, and I feel better every time, man. I feel better every single time, and I don't know how it works. I don't know why it works. But because we're not doctors, we're not therapists here, but it works better than any therapist or doctor I've ever been to in my life, man. Coming on here and talking with you guys and sharing with my peers, and investing time and service in other individuals that are trying to do the same thing I'm doing, bro. It's changed my life, man. It's changed my life. Starting, from going from thinking that maybe that this program is not for me to learning the secret of this program, within a month's period. That's why they say don't leave 5 minutes before the miracle happens, Tom. Like, you never know when that miracle is going to happen. And it might not be like that overnight thing. It might not just be this flash of light. Like, it might just come in subtle little pieces, man. So just don't fucking pick up and just keep coming back, bro. And I promise this thing will work for you if you wanted to. If you wanted to, you gotta give yourself a little compassion, man. Put that bat down and pick up a feather. But that's my answer. Great meeting, guys. I love you all so much, man. I appreciate you guys.
Now, Thomas, could you please ask Thomas?
Please be nice to him. He's my friend.
The thing that popped into my mind when I was considering this is yelling at my kids.
Ooh,
And I try not to yell at my kids. In fact, I tell them I'm not going to yell at you anymore. No matter what, and I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old son, and like, sure, lo and behold, the next day, the 8-year-old will be fucking in the pool holding the 5-year-old's head under the water. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
it!
what the fuck? And it just comes out of my mouth.
We just fucking talked about this yesterday.
Yeah, and then my 8-year-old will be like, you said you weren't going to yell at me anymore. And it's like, well, shit. So old Tom would just be like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to yell at my kids all the time, whatever, but my new way of operating is I'm going to get back on that horse. I'm going to try not to yell at them today. I'm going to try not to yell at them tomorrow. If I yelled at them yesterday, that doesn't mean that I'm going to yell at them today. You know what I mean? That's an example, right, of one thing a change that I would like to make in my life, that just because I wasn't successful the day before doesn't mean I'm not going to be successful today, or doesn't mean if I'm not successful today, doesn't mean I'm not going to be successful tomorrow. So it's about repetition, just like trying to get sober. A lot of us tried to get sober for fucking 1,000 days before the day we did, right? You tried every day, and then one day it clicks. And, just because it doesn't click one day doesn't mean it's not going to click the next. So we do these things, we repeat these actions, we try, and that's why, 24-hour, staying sober is a 24-hour deal, one day at a time, but that can be applied to anything. If I make it through the day without yelling at my kids, well, shit, that was a good day. I was successful. If I did yell at my kids that day, that's why we have these 10-step inventories things we can do at night, right? I realized what I did that I didn't want to do. I take inventory on that. I consider how I can do a different deal tomorrow, and I try to do my best that day. So it's about giving ourselves a little bit of grace, right? Not being so hard on ourselves, because what we're doing, and I mentioned this before, the bondage of self, quote unquote, this shit is hard, right? Life is fucking hard. And I will leave it with that, right? These things that we are doing, that we are talking about, are not easy. They're not quick fixes. The shit that we're doing is challenging. So giving ourselves the grace to maybe not be 100% successful all the time is very important.
Woo.
Beautiful. Drop the mic.
Well, I love you guys, and I want to say thanks for both of you being here today. It couldn't have started the day in a better way, and I love you. Andrew, anything final?
Yes, people will forget what you tell them, and people will forget everything you've done for them, but people will never forget how you make them feel, man. I appreciate you guys today. I love y'all.
Thomas?
Love you guys.
Okay. And everybody out there, tune in next episode for more recovery.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye, everybody. Love you.
Thanks.
Please help us help others. If you like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.